so let's see with the Beatles. So part of the questions they asked and we talked about were not things like, oh, your music or anything like that. It was like, where are you going from this? What do you expect from this? And of course, George expected to be close to enlightenment and bringing it out in his music, whether people knew that it was happening to them or not. And John expected kind of like the magical mystery tour a little bit, meaning that he saw it more as an incredible LSD trip that we'd enter. And I did in some ways too. I mean, we couldn't leave this thing. And at one point, Maharishi took all the meals out of the dining room, and we were to be in our rooms. And they would slip a piece of paper under the door, and you'd check off the food you'd want for that day. You didn't even come out of your room for at least 2.5 of the months. So it was very, very heavy-duty time and transformative. And people say to me, well, Prudence, what's it like? You know, what was it like coming back after 4.5 months of this intense meditation? And the first time I was asked that was in a talk I was giving in New York. And what I had to say was, I've never come back. I never came back. But it's good. It's real good. So this is what we were doing. And there was one time I was in my room, which you'll read about, and I'm kind of doing a spoiler. If you can think of something I should talk about, Albert, go ahead. That's my husband over there. He came the year after me. And at some point I want to introduce the local teachers here. Where is Herb? Oh, okay, good. We are going to teach a course, the three of us, Karen and Herb and myself, on TM. And I will tell you, if there's any way you can do it, please do it. Now, how many people meditate here? How many people don't meditate? Just a few, okay. So you are surrounded, you guys. Ask these specimens what they feel. You know, I mean, you know what I'm saying, but ask some of these other people, did it transform your life? Yeah. It completely transformed it. So ask them. But anyway, so I was in my room very serious about doing this thing because I had tried to go to India and been rejected the year before. So that I got to go was, you know, to me, nothing was more important. To be there, get this kind of opportunity under a master of the level of that Maharishi was. He really, and you'll see, those of you who take the TM course, how thoroughly meditation is understood. He understood it like nobody in the past has even been able to explain it. He knew every step of the way, every experience, everything, including what we have ahead. So to study with him, knowing that, was the thrill of my lifetime. As I was saying, meeting him was the most profound experience I've ever had. But to be studying under him, I just couldn't have asked for anything better. Couldn't have. So I was studying, you know, I was going to give it my 125% self on everything he asked, which at that time was to meditate as much as we could. And so I was trying 24/7 meditating. Part of the problem for me. At that time, he didn't realize that a lot of us have tremendous stress, the young people. He said he had no idea the level of stress we had. But anyway, so I was meditating, and what started to happen is in my spine. I started to feel this buildup. And it started getting stronger and stronger and began to hurt. And it really started hurting. But I was going to tough it out, you know. I mean, nothing would, even if I was debilitated, I was going to get my meditation in no matter what. So I was there, you know, and I had come through the yoga world. So I mean, I was in the full lotus, sitting up straight on the floor of my room all this time. Most people were in couches or chairs or something, but I was in the full lotus. And I was meditating, and my back was just, it was so, the pain was just radiating. It hurt so much. And I thought, you know, I feel like they talk about Kundalini because I read all these things, and maybe my Kundalini's stuck. It must have gotten in the wrong channel or something. So while I'm meditating, I'm thinking, gosh, I wish, you know, it would go into another channel or something. This is horrible. Then but I'm still persisting. All of a sudden, while I'm meditating, the doors to the room that I was in, now these are primitive rooms. So the doors were like what we would call wooden shutters, you know, wooden shutters, they open in the middle. And so the doors open that way, and there was a metal bar you would put across them when you were inside, and if you went outside, you put the metal bar that way. I had a metal bar there. All of a sudden, as I'm meditating, the doors smash open, and they slam against the walls. I'm sure they took some of the plaster off when they hit the walls. And I didn't have my glasses on. At that time, I wore very thick goggles. And so I couldn't see very far, so it was like being underwater. So if you could imagine yourself being underwater. But in comes this sadhu. Does anyone know what a sadhu is? They're kind of wandering ascetics in India. And this one, I'm sure, I mean, I didn't really look, but I think he was naked and covered in the ash. And he had his hair in dreadlocks coming up around his head, up high. Because I remember thinking, he's short, but look at his hair. So it was about a foot at least above his head. And he came in, and I was sitting sideways, so we burst in the door, and he came over behind me, and he took both my arms, the upper arm, and he pulled me up. And so I shot up onto my legs, and he pushed me outside the doors into the patio area. Then he turned and he had me face the Ganges, east. I think it was east. Anyway, he had me face that way, and he pulled me down so that I was back to sitting position. And I was just sort of like a puppet in his hands, just doing whatever he did. Then all of a sudden, he whacked me from behind. He just hit me. And I just, you know, I just went into another zone. I didn't have a body. It just felt so good because I'd been in so much pain. It was like I was all air, and it just felt so good. And then he picked me up, took me back to where I had been, smashed me back down into my seat, walked out the doors, slammed them shut, and was gone. Well, I became very curious. Who's this guy? So I began asking around the academy, did you see this guy? He had hair about a foot up above his head, and he wasn't that tall. He was a little shorter than me, and he was naked. No, they thought I was, you know, hallucinating or something, but I wasn't. And nobody knew where he was. Finally, after about 2 weeks, and my asking everybody, all the monks around Maharishi and everything, one monk said, I think I know who you're talking about. He came down on a log down the Ganges, and he came off the log. We saw him a couple of months ago. He's back in the jungle meditating. So I said to Maharishi, this is very disturbing. that I could be in my room and having pain. I'm so grateful I don't have it, but how did he know? Now, what had happened, transpired just after that, is that my sister, Mia Farrow, she learned to meditate in India. And she had been off somewhere. Maharishi would arrange tours for her to go, because sometimes the silence, she just wasn't used to it. So he sent me to go pick her up in Delhi. And of course, I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay and meditate, and I didn't want to leave that incredible environment. So I was furious with my sister that I have to go get her in Delhi. So I tried to ask Maharishi, she could take care of herself, she doesn't need me or anything, and he just said, go get your sister. So I went in a car, and the whole time I was meditating, because I wasn't going to miss out on what everyone who got to stay there was getting. So I meditated in the car all the way there, and we picked her up, and then we were in the hotel, and we had dinner, and it was bedtime. And we had 2 little single beds, and a little, table between us with a lamp on it, and then the telephone. So I'm still thinking, everybody in Rishikesh is getting to meditate, and I'm here in Delhi in the city. And if you notice, if you've read anything that John said about the people in India, particularly me, there was an obsession with getting enlightened. I thought the world was going to change tomorrow, that this revolution that was happening, it was going to happen tomorrow, because it had happened so quickly for me, and that, the world was going to change, everything was going to change, and I would be enlightened by the end of these 4 months. What enlightenment meant, I wasn't sure, but I definitely was headed there. So that was sure that, and I was not going to miss any opportunity that could get in the way of that. So what happens is that we're sleeping. Mia's sleeping. I'm meditating. And it's about 3 in the morning. And the phone rings. And in the back of my mind, I think, how irresponsible or how insensitive of Mia's agents to call at this hour, It's one of her people. But I continue my meditation. And I hear Mia answer the phone. She says, oh, yes, she's here. She's here. So she hands me the phone. It's Maharishi. He says, now, rest. No more meditating. Rest now. And so I started thinking, the combination of him knowing that, this is as my mind, got a little busier than it should, then I started, and that, Sadhu knowing that he could come in the room, he knew that I had the pain. They know my thoughts. How embarrassing. What am I going to do? How mortifying. I can't even imagine being around Maharishi now, because he'll think of my thoughts, and I'll think the worst thoughts because I'll know he can read them. So when I was around him, I finally said, I'm really mortified because you could read my thoughts, and this sadhu could read my thoughts, and who knows what else. There's probably a whole bunch of sadhus out there reading. And this is kind of embarrassing, not that they're interesting thoughts. And he said, no, what you're experiencing is when you meditate, you become bigger, which is true. You know how people have presences? And some people don't. And so that presence is actually their spirit that you're sort of relating to. And as your spirit, or your transcendental part of you grows, you grow bigger. So when you have thoughts, they can be felt outside your world. So that's how he answered that question. So now let me ask any of you if you have questions.